LoveLore Library. Chapter 1435. Feng Lianqing to the servant who was following Helene Yu was speechless. Young lady, where did you get the idea that Master Lianqing is shy? He's obviously avoiding you. But the servant did not dare to say it out loud. Shao, let's go. I haven't visited Grandfather Tianya for a long time. I brought him a jar of good wine this time. Grandfather Tianya will definitely like it. Helene Yu turned around with a smile. As long as she saw Feng Lianqing, she would be happy all day. More importantly, she could come and go in and out of Feng Manor as she pleased, but not Helene. Helene could not even see Brother Lianqing if she wanted to. It was already dusk. Helene Yu walked out of Feng Manor. She had just stepped out of the door when she heard a cold voice. Recently, I heard that Master Lianqing has been looking for a spirit herb called flame fruit. He went to many herb stores but was still unable to buy it. I know where flame fruit is. I saw it not long ago when I went to Wood Spirit Mountain. It's at the top of the mountain, but I don't need it. Why don't let eldest young lady Helene know about this? After all, she is in a relationship with our young master. Indeed. I also saw eldest young lady Helene and young master hugging each other last time. He will definitely be the young lad's future husband. There were two young ladies in the Helene family. One of them was second young lady, Helene Yu, and the other was eldest young lady, Helene. Helene Yu's parents were both from the imperial family, so the master of the Helene family must have favored her a bit more than eldest young lady Helene. That was why Helene Yu's face changed dramatically after hearing the two guards' discussion. That little slut Helene has really hooked up with Brother Lianqing. Those two guards had probably just spotted Helene Yu. Their faces turned pale as they noticed her eyes darkened. Helene. Second young lady. Helene Yu's face was cold as she walked toward the two guards arrogantly. She then fiercely raised her chin and said, "No one is allowed to tell Helene about what you have just said." The two guards shivered and lowered their heads. Yes, young lady. Good. Helene Yu's facial expression returned to neutral as she walked away from the guards. Me for extra chapters. Young lady. Shao followed behind Helene Yu. Wood Spirit Mountain is very dangerous. We'd better not go there. If Master finds out, no. Helene Yu said angrily, if I don't go, Helene will definitely go as well. I know she also likes Brother Lianqing. I can't let her steal my chance. But, young lady, I don't care. I'm willing to take even the greatest risk for Brother Lianqing. The servant was startled. She sighed heavily as she looked at her young lad's determined steps. Love really can drive someone to do irrational things. In the desert. A red figure stood in the middle of the desert, seemingly domineering. The man next to her was dressed in white, handsome and stunning. Like a pair of immortal couples, these two people walked together like a picture of a couple walking together, so harmonious. Nan Xian, where is the place that Suyi was talking about? This time, Feng Lianqing did not bring anyone else with her. Chapter 1436. Feng Lianqing 3. Besides Fu Chen and Qing Han, she had only brought a mute girl with her. And she had not even told Feng Tianyu where she was going. After all, from the rumors in the mainland, that place was very dangerous, so she did not dare bring her family with her, not until she found Feng Wuhui and brought him back. We are almost there. Nan Xian looked at Feng Lianqing gently. Qing'er, when we arrive in land of no return, don't ever leave my side. All right, Feng Lianqing responded to him with a faint smile. Their gazes fell on the yellow sand. The scenery was so beautiful that one could never bear to spoil it. Across this desert was an icy land, the extreme opposite of the yellow sand just now. The temperature of the snowy ground was extremely low, making it difficult for even cultivators to enter. It was said that only holy warriors could withstand such coldness. However, Feng-Riching looked back at Xiaoye and found that she did not look any different. A hint of suspicion suddenly flashed in her eyes, and then quickly faded. No matter what, Xiaoye was following her with all her heart, and that was enough. Feng-Riching would not dig out her past. Everyone had their own secrets, and she had already known what she wanted to know anyway, so she did not need to ask anything else. As long as Xiaoye did not betray her. That was all that matters. Qing'er, mother said after walking through here, you will reach a bridge, and if you jump from the bridge, you'll arrive in land of no return. You must grab my hand then and don't let go. Only then, we will not be separated. All right. Feng-Riching held Nan Xian's hand tightly. Her face was filled with determination, and even her steps were slightly firm. As expected, she soon saw the bridge. Under the bridge was a bottomless chasm. If she did not trust Sui, she would never have come to this place, not even have the courage to jump off the bridge. Xiaoye, Feng-Riching gripped Xiaoye's arm tightly. Don't leave my side. Xiaoye nodded. The three of them were already standing on the bridge. Feng-Riching slowly closed her eyes, her fingers caressing her abdomen, and only after a moment did she open her eyes. She and Nan Xian looked at each other and jumped off the bridge together without turning back. Darkness, me for extra chapters. There was nothing but darkness. It was no wonder no one had found the other path to land of no return. It was because no one would ever try to jump off this bridge. Feng-Riching could not see where Nan Xian was at all, but the warmth she felt in her hand assured her that the man would always be by her side. She did not even know how long she had been in free fall after the jump. She only knew that her body would drop with each passing minute. Wood Spirit Mountain. On top of the mountain, a demonic flower stood out, swaying in the breeze. Young lady, Xiao Xiao held an incense stick in her hand, and she was about to cry. The incense stick is running out. What should we do? If those spirit beasts find out, we will definitely die. Helian Yu had only brought her servant with her without any guards as she did not want the manor master to stop her from coming to Wood Spirit Mountain. Initially, they had brought enough beast-repelling incense so that lower-ranked beasts would not notice them. Unfortunately, they had somehow lost a few incense sticks halfway up the mountain. The beast-repelling incense that they had right now was enough to hike up the mountain, but it was no longer enough to help them leave this place. Hold on. I almost got flame fruit. Helian Yu hooked one hand to the stone, and with the other hand, she tried to grab the red-colored fruit. She was cautious in her movements, afraid that she would accidentally fall off the cliff. Chapter 1437, Falling from the Sky. Fortunately, Helian Yu got hold of the fruit, and she was so happy that she hurriedly plucked it off its branch and steadied her footing. But the moment she stood firm on her feet, a furious roar suddenly came, causing her to be slightly startled, and she subconsciously looked sideways. Not far away, a fire lion was rushing toward them angrily. Its eyes were red and bloodshot, cruel and vicious. Helian Yu's small face was white with fear. She was panicked and quickly took a few steps back, but behind her was a 10,000 feet drop over the cliff. She could not retreat anymore. Young lady, Xiao Xiao trembled hard. She was panicking so much and was on the verge of tears. The fire lion's gaze was fixed upon flame fruit in Helian Yu's hand. Its ferocious teeth carried a cold aura, and in the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Helian Yu. It opened its bloody mouth wide. Its saliva flowed downward, carrying an unpleasant smell. Helian Yu's legs trembled non-stop. It was as if her legs had taken root on the ground, unable to move, and she could only watch as the fire lion pounced in front of her. Right at this moment, A light flashed in the sky, lighting up the space above her head. Helion gradually raised her head and looked around. Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky and smashed the fire lion's head. Puff! The fire lion spurted out a mouthful of blood. Its eyes rolled up, and it gradually lost its consciousness. Above the fire lion's head was a girl dressed in a red robe stained with blood. Her brain buzzed a bit as her fingers gently rubbed her temples, trying to clear her head. State Preceptor. Xiaoya. Feng slowly regained her senses. When she was about to land on the ground just now, there was a force that suddenly came, and to avoid it, she and the State Preceptor were forced to let go of their hands. And Xiaoya. She did not know where Xiaoya had gone. As Feng raised her eyes, she saw a pretty and adorable little face. The young girl's face was pale, and her lips slightly trembled, pointing at Feng, unable to say a word. Feng was slightly startled as she lowered her eyes and saw the fire lion that she had crushed was still unconscious. She looked somewhat uncomfortable. Could it be that, me for extra chapters? This fire lion is the little girl's pet. Did I just sit on someone's pet and killed it? No way. She was not as heavy as Tang Yin, so the fire lion was not dead yet. It was just passed out. Is it yours? Feng stood up from the fire lion's head. She was embarrassed, but her face showed nothing. It's okay. It's not dead yet, I can save. Before Feng could finish her words, the little girl brought out a long sword from nowhere and pierced the fire lion's head. Feng was speechless. This girl is so vicious. The panic faded from the little girl's face after she stabbed the fire lion to death. Xiao was still trembling as she asked, "Young lady, this is the fire lion. Why would the fire lion, who has been expelled from the Lion Beast clan for killing the people in the city back then, appear in this place?" It scared the hell out of me. Helion glanced at Xiao. It's just a spirit beast. Look at how scared you are. You'll definitely disgrace me if you go out like this, and Helion will laugh at us. She had somehow forgotten that she was so scared just now that she could not even walk and was about to pee her pants. Helion lifted her chin slightly as she turned to Feng. My name is Helion. Chapter 1438, Falling from the Sky 2. Oh, Feng responded, uninterested. She's not as cute as Tang Yin, and not as pretty as Yi. Not interested. Feng then turned around and left. Helion was anxious. She looked at flame fruit on her hand. She had not only picked flame fruit, but the lotus flower with the roots around it was all pulled out too. Therefore, she carefully picked off the fruit and put it into her storage bag. She then quickly went in front of Feng and handed the flower to her. It's for you. Feng looked at the flower in the girl's hand silently before she turned to Helion. I have a husband. I don't like women, so it's useless for you to confess to me. Besides, I like Edelweiss. I don't like these kinds of flowers that are too bright. Helion's face darkened. She gritted her teeth. My grandfather said that a man should know how to repay a kindness. You have just saved me. I can only give you this flower right now, or do you want my flame fruit? Helion hurriedly hugged the storage bag in her hand. No, I want to give this to Brother Lianqing. I can't give it to you. Feng's gaze moved toward the storage bag that Helion was holding. She slowly raised her head to look at the little girl's flat chest. You. What are you doing? Helion's teeth trembled as she tightly covered her chest. I'm telling you, there's no way I'm going to give myself to you. I don't like women either. Oh, Feng calmly responded. She did not want to say anything more to Helion, but she did take the flower that Helion Yu handed over. This is a good item. I don't know if the girl is really stupid. Taking away flame fruit, and giving the most important thing to me. With this flower, she could grow as many flame fruits as she wanted in the future. But still, Helion Yu was so generous. Enriching took out a bottle from the medium and threw it to Helion Yu. Take it. Apply it once before you go to bed. Your breast will grow bigger after a month, me for extra chapters. This was the essential oil that Tang Yin had asked her for a long time, and luckily she had one bottle left to give to this girl. Helion Yu's face was red, but she eventually took it as she thought about her unattractive figure. For Brother Lianqing. She must take it. My grandfather said that we must repay kindness. If this thing you gave me is beneficial, Helion Yu paused for a moment and took out flame fruit again. She carefully scraped the black seeds off and handed it to Enriching. So, this is for you. Flame fruit was red, but there was a layer of black seeds covering it. Yes, black seeds. The seeds of other fruits were inside it, but the seeds of flame fruit were outside of it. Enriching looked at the black seeds that Helion Yu handed over. This girl is foolish. If she gave her the fruit's essence, what use was there for the rest of the fruit? However, since Helion Yu wanted to give it to her, she received it without hesitation. After a moment of silence, she took another bottle from the medium and threw it to Helion Yu. This is a reward for you. It will make you taller. Helion Yu was anxious. You can't do this. I don't have anything to give you now. I didn't bring anything with me when I went out, and I have to give this flame fruit to Brother Lianqing. I can't give it to you anymore. Oh, then if you don't want it, Enriching was about to take back the bottle, but who knew that this Helion Yu was so quick to snatch it right away. Chapter 1439, Falling from the Sky 3. She quickly kept the bottle inside her bag. She searched around before realizing that she did not have anything else to give Enriching. Therefore, she looked at the servant beside her. Xiao Xiao was about to cry. Young lady, just because she says it can help you grow your breasts, doesn't mean it really can, right? She says you can grow taller, but can you really grow taller? This woman is lying. You don't need to give me to her in return. Young lady, Xiao Xiao cried. I can help you think of how to deal with Helion, and I can also help you watch Master Lianqing. I'm really useful to you. Only then did Helion Yu reluctantly turn her gaze from her servant. She bit her lip and said, What about, the next time someone offends you, you come and tell me. I will beat that person up for you. I no longer have anything else I can give you. For this kind of strong person who could smash a fire lion with her but, giving her gold and silver was useless. She definitely did not care about it. Enriching cocked her eyebrows. You take care of yourself first. You seem to have offended many people, so I'll leave you alone. Goodbye. After she said this, she turned around and wanted to leave. But who knew, countless forces came out of nowhere and surrounded Helion Yu. Helion Yu. Finally, we've caught you. Among the crowd was an old man. That old man's white robe was floating in the wind. He looked quite strong with sage-like features. But his eyes were cold, and his gaze was filled with murderous intent. You are, Helion Yu was somewhat dazed. You're from the Jia family, right? Ha ha ha, yes. I am indeed from the Jia family. Your family has bullied many people. You guys have chased after Jia Axian for so many years. Jia Axian is still a disciple of our Jia family, after all. And you should not bully our young lady. That's right. Helion Yu, you're so arrogant. Sooner or later, the gods will punish you for us. The one who said this was a young man whose eyes were filled with anger and hatred as he stared fiercely at Helianyu. Helianyu took a few steps back. Feng Hui, are you coming for me as well? Aren't you afraid that my grandfather will go and settle the score with the Feng family, me for extra chapters? Ha! Helianyu, you bullied my sister. Did you think I would let you off that easily? Before this, you were always hiding in Wushang City. Of course, we did not dare to do anything to you. Now that you've left on your own, and after I got the news, I definitely won't let you go back alive. Helianyu, you're so evil. Everyone wants to kill you. Today, none of us will let you go. Xiao Xiao was scared to death. She had already warned her young lady that she should not leave Wushang City. Her young lady was too domineering before, and countless people wanted to revenge her. Initially, they thought they could hide from these people, but they still found them in the end. It's over. This time. We're doomed. Young lady, you'd better run first. I will settle this. Xiao Xiao was trembling with fear, and she was on the verge of crying. Helianyu was also panicking. How can I run? They're blocking the road, and there's nothing I can do about it. Didn't the book say there would be other life opportunities after jumping off the cliff? A lot of people get stronger that way. And maybe a skilled master is waiting for us just below the cliff. How about we try our luck, young lady? At this moment, Helianyu could not wait to strangle her servant to death. She really wants me to jump off the cliff. Did she know that if they were not lucky enough, they might end up dead? Chapter 1440, Do you know Jia Axian? Helianyu. Feng Hui took a few steps closer to Helianyu and smiled coldly. You are here now. You can't escape even if you have wings. And no one will find out if you do die in this place. The people of the Jia family also approached Helianyu along with Feng Hui. And behind Helianyu was a 10,000 feet cliff. The little girl's little face turned pale as she clenched her teeth and asked, How did you know that I'm here? It must be Helianing who told you, right? Feng Hui laughed. You don't have to care about how I knew this. You just need to know that you will die today. Feng Hui rushed forward as soon as he finished his words. His eyes were so fierce, and the long sword in his hand carried a cold light. Helianyu was so scared as she trembled harder. She could not even move her legs and could only watch the long sword heading toward her. Despair filled her heart. Suddenly, vines came out from the ground and wrapped around Feng Hui's hand. He tried to free his hand a few times with great force but was unable to break it. His whole body was firmly fixed to the spot, unable to move. Feng Hui's eyes were filled with rage, and he was about to growl, but then a figure suddenly arrived and kicked his chest. Feng Hui's body flew away before falling to the ground helplessly. His bones cracked, and his face turned pale with pain. But without waiting for Feng Hui to stand up at all, the vines emerged from the ground again and wrapped around his feet, hanging him in the air. Helianyu was stunned. She turned her head and saw a red figure flying to her side. The young girl's fine hair blew in the wind, stunningly beautiful. She held a long sword in her hand, and her eyes were cold. Haven't you already left? Helianyu was dumbfounded. She did not understand why Feng Ruqing was still around. Feng Ruqing obviously did not pay much attention to her. She stared at Feng Hui calmly. Do you know Jia Axian? Me for extra chapters. Feng Hui's face was red. But before he could say another word, he had been thrown down hard from high in the sky. He felt dizzy from the fall, and he could not seem to spit out another mouthful of blood as it was stuck in his throat. Do you know Jia Axian? Feng Ruqing asked again, expressionlessly. Feng Hui quickly lifted his head and was met with the girl's cold eyes. Her eyes were so cold that he trembled harder. Before he could utter a word of denial, the vines came out of the ground again, lifting him into the air and slamming him down onto the ground again. This time Feng Hui was slammed down hard. He spurted out a mouthful of blood, almost fainting. Helian Yu was dumbfounded. She looked at the miserable Feng Hui before turning to Feng Ruqing and said weakly, "Actually, he's not from the Jia family. He's from the Feng family, and the Jia family is the other one." Feng Ruqing was speechless. "I have hit the wrong person. Oh, I'm sorry. I've gotten the wrong person." Feng Ruqing raised her eyes and followed the direction Helian Yu pointed to, seeing the old man in the crowd. "So, you know Jia Axin?" The old man was cold and arrogant. "Yes, I know Jia Axin. He is a disciple of my Jia family. Girl, I advise you," bang. Before he could speak any further, a fist met his face, interrupting him. Feng Ruqing retracted her fist. Her face remained cold. "This time, I didn't hit the wrong person." Chapter 1441, Baby Brain Eye Things After Beating Somebody Up. This old man was not considered a powerful man in the Jia family, but he was still a Jia family member, after all. So how could he allow someone to treat him like this? He wiped the blood from his nose and looked at Feng Ruqing angrily. "Who are you?" "I'm Jia Xin's father." The young girl moved as fast as the wind, and in a split second, she was already in front of that old man of Jia family. Vines appeared from the ground, entangling the disciples of the Jia family. They could not make any move and only watched as the young girl's fist smashed the old man's face. Feng Hui was stunned. This woman looks beautiful and has a big belly, but how could she be so fierce? "Are you not afraid if something bad happens to your baby?" He gulped and said fiercely, "All of you, go get her." Feng Ruqing glanced coldly. Those guards trembled, yet they still rushed toward Feng Ruqing. However, before those people could get close to Feng Ruqing, a violent gust of wind suddenly blew, sending them flying away and landing on the ground helplessly. Feng Hui was stunned. He looked up and saw a handsome and stunning face. The man's robe was as white as snow, misty like an immortal. His stunning face could make thousands of girls in this world fall in love with him. The man stood next to Feng Ruqing. His robe fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were as cold as the moon. He looked calm as he gradually turned to those who had rushed toward him again. Boom! However, his energy was like a powerful wave, and before those people could even touch his robes, this power lifted them off the ground. The rest of the people were like ants under this power. State Preceptor, Feng Ruqing looked at Nan Xian happily. "You're not missing." Well, Nan Xian's face softened a bit. "I was slightly distant from you when I first fell, but fortunately not too far away. I noticed strange energy here, and so I came looking for you, me for extra chapters." "Where's Xiaoya?" "I didn't know, but she must be around here." They had landed in different places, but not too far apart. Otherwise, Nan Xian would not have been able to find her so quickly. Feng Ruqing raised her eyebrows and looked at the old man of the Jia family lividly. "I thought that all the Jia family members were strong. But I didn't expect that you're even worse than Jia Axan." The old man's face darkened. Indeed, he was not the most powerful in the Jia family. But he was still the head family's uncle, after all. So what if he was not strong enough? It was still more than enough to deal with Helian Yu. Unfortunately, he did not expect to meet this woman here, and she had even dared to compare him to Jia Axan. Ridiculous. No matter how powerful Jia Axan was, he was only a second cousin to the family's head. How could the Jia family head compare Jia Axan to his own uncle, who was obviously related to him? Don't compare me to that idiot, Jia Axian. That idiot, who even bullied a cat, doesn't deserve to be a Jia family member. If not because of his strength, that kind of bastard would have been kicked out from the Jia family. Feng Ruqing frowned. So, he hasn't been kicked out of the Jia family yet. He's still one of the Jia family members? The old man of the Jia family was also foolish. After hearing Feng Ruqing's words, he even replied honestly, "That's right." Oh, Feng Ruqing nodded calmly. I knew it. Chapter 1442, Baby Brain 2. The old man of the Jia family was stunned. You knew it? What do you mean? Soon. That old man would understand what she meant. The young girl flashed like the wind and slapped the old man across both of his cheeks. Those guards had freed themselves from the vines and were planning to do something. But who knew that a powerful momentum suddenly pressed down on them, so much so that they could not even move. It was all that old man's fault. He did not dare to bring out too many people. If he had brought too many powerful men, the old master of the Jia family would definitely have noticed it. Therefore, he only dared to get some ordinary guards to chase after Helianyu. And the same went for Feng Hui. Initially, they thought that it would be easy to deal with Helianyu alone. Perhaps they would not even have to finish her off themselves. No one had expected Feng Ruqing to be here. Feng Ruqing kicked him away with a thud. She rolled up her sleeves and looked at the old man with a cold, expressionless gaze. Go back and tell Jia Axian that I've come to look for him. The old man of the Jia family stood up, panicked. His face was swollen like a pig's head with a blood trail hanging from the corner of his mouth. Who are you? Once he found out the identity of this bitch, he would never let her go. You only need to tell Jia Axian that. There's no need for you to know who I am if you really want to know a name, Feng Ruqing sneered as she raised her hand and pulled Helianyu closer to her. What's your name? She asked Helianyu. Helianyu looked pissed. She had told her just now. Helianyu. Oh, Feng Ruqing smiled calmly. Just say that Helianyu is one of mine. You can deal with her later. Don't come to me. When the time comes, I will go to Jia Axian by myself to settle the score. Jia Axian. The moment she returned to Tianshan Manor, Jia Axian had already been dragged away by Big Black. But that did not mean that she did not know the culprit who had almost harmed the people of Tianshan Manor. Besides, she was not dumb to simply give her name. Who knew how many skilled masters like Jia Axian were in this Jia family? What if they come after her and the state preceptor? Me for extra chapters. For this kind of thing. It would be better for them to go to Helianyu. Helianyu was speechless. Her face darkened. Fortunately, Feng Ruqing had saved her. So, she would take the blame for her. Helianyu swore as she patted her chest. Yes. If you're looking to settle the score, you can come to the Helian family and find me. I want to see if your Jia family has the guts to do so, and I will definitely tell my grandfather about this. So, you wait for my grandfather to come to you. The old man's face changed dramatically. He could no longer say any arrogant words, he was just like a suffocated balloon. If any of the Helian family know about this. Tragic. The entire Jia family would never live in peace again. Helianyu lifted her chin and said, "Get the hell out of here. Don't block my way. You're so ugly. Only a good-looking man like Brother Lianqing has the right to appear in front of me." Perhaps sensing that he was not a match for Feng Ruqing and Nan Xian, the old man from the Jia family did not say anything more. He looked at Feng Ruqing resentfully before he turned around and walked out of the mountain. Feng Hui gritted his teeth and eventually left as well, but his eyes were so vicious, like a knife that had been covered with poison. Looking at their departing figures, Nan Xian pondered for a moment before finally saying, "Qing'er, actually, we don't have to let them leave. If they are buried here, no one will notice." Chapter 1443, Baby Brain 3. Feng Ruqing was startled. She rubbed her head. "It seems so. Then, is it too late for us to go after them now?" Nan Xian was dumbstruck. It was like she had a baby brain. Sometimes she was extremely sharp and intelligent, and sometimes she made silly mistakes. Helian Yu turned to Feng Ruqing. "My Helian family will not consider the Jia family of any significance. There is no need for you to show mercy to them for fear of dragging me down. Even if I did kill the old man of the Jia family, they wouldn't dare to do anything to me. Someone will always defend me." Feng Ruqing was speechless. She was silent for a few moments. "Be speaking frankly, I didn't do it for you. I got it. You don't need to explain." Helian Yu waved her hand with a lofty gesture. "I thought you really left me behind and ran away before, but I didn't think you were righteous enough to know that those people came prepared to kill me. If they died, the Jia family would definitely suspect that I have done it. That was why you have let these dogs go. I really didn't do it for you." Helian Yu grasped Feng Ruqing's hand. "Shao Qing, I understand. I understand everything. You said like this because you're afraid that he'll feel guilty. Don't worry. My grandfather is powerful. I won't let the Jia family cause any more trouble for you. When I go back, I'll ask my grandfather to find them to settle the score." Feng Ruqing could feel Nan Xian's jealous gaze all over her. Her body stiffened, unable to move. Nan Xian pulled Feng Ruqing into his arms, forcing their hands apart. His tone was somewhat cold as he said, "Qing'er, is it true? I thought it's common for a pregnant woman to do something silly during her pregnancy, as what people have always said. But it turns out that you have done all this for her." "I did not. I did not. No way. Am innocent, really." Seeing that Helian Yu was about to continue speaking, Feng Ruqing glared at her sharply, scaring her so much that she quickly shut her mouth. Her eyes were blank. "Have I said something wrong? Young lady, stop talking." Xiao Xiao immediately tugged at Helian Yu's sleeve, afraid that she would repeat something dumb. Could she not see that man was about to cut her to pieces by 1,000 cuts? How dare she talk nonsense? "Qing'er, let's go." Nan Xian looked at Helian Yu coldly. He then turned his gaze once again to Feng Ruqing, and his cold eyes were gradually softening. Me for extra chapters. Well. He could not allow her to develop any relationship with that woman. He did not want another Tang Yin or Gui Yi. He felt like he wanted to kill all cute girls in this world. Helian Yu was totally baffled. She did not understand when she had provoked this man. She would also never understand that a jealous man was scarier than anyone else. "Xiao Xiao," Helian Yu held her chin in deep thought. "What's wrong with this man?" Xiao Xiao remained silent. "I didn't mess with him, but I saw the look in his eyes. It was like trying to hit me. He looked like a demon slut, prettier than a woman. He's not even human. Brother Lianqing is much better than him. At least, if she stood next to Brother Lianqing, she would still have some dignity. But if it was this man in front of her, oh, any girl would look bad next to him. Perhaps. Only a girl like Xiao Qing can be his match, right? Oh, I haven't asked for Xiao Qing's real name yet." Helian Yu suddenly thought of something and rushed toward Feng Ruqing. She only knew that the guy called her Xiao Qing, but she did not know her full name. If she did not know her name, how could she repay her for saving her life in the future? Chapter 1444, the two sisters from the Hellion family. Unfortunately, Hellion Yu had lost her. She lowered her head in frustration. Xiao Xiao stood next to her and said, "Young lady, should we go back and meet the Jia family first? I remember that Jia Axayan seems to be still locked up in the dungeon by Master Lianqing." Seeing that Hellion Yu did not say anything, Xiao Xiao added, "Moreover, if we don't go back in time, maybe those people from the Jia family might still send someone to look for that girl. Besides, young lady must quickly give flame fruit to Master Lianqing." After hearing this, Hellion Yu immediately became excited as she waved her hand. "Let's go back. Quick!" Wushang City. It was the main city of Tianling Kingdom. All the great families had close relations and were connected. As the city's protector general, Tianya, had huge military power, even the Tianling Kingdom Emperor feared him. Therefore, General Tianya held supreme power in this kingdom. And as the general's right-hand man, Hellion Su naturally also held a pivotal position. Moreover, General Tianya favored Hellion Yu, so much so that the Hellion family's reputation was flourishing, and no one dared to provoke them. At this moment, in the Hellion family, Hellion Su was filled with anxiety. He looked anxious, and he was somewhat restless. "How's it going?" Seeing someone walking in at the door, Hellion Su hurriedly got up and asked, "Is there any news about Yuer?" The visitor stroked his sleeve, half kneeling on the ground, and respectfully reported, "Master, my man has just received the news that second young lady left Wushang City and went to Wood Spirit Mountain. She only brought a servant with her." The old man's expression changed. He seemed panicked. "She only brought a servant to Wood Spirit Mountain with her. Send everyone in the Hellion family to Wood Spirit Mountain to bring this little girl back. Immediately." "Yes." The guard responded respectfully and retreated. Me for extra chapters. When the guard had left, a young girl who was waiting quietly at the side came out from her hiding place. Her face was also filled with worry, but her tone was reproachful. "Grandfather, second sister is really a bit ignorant this time. How can she go to a place like Wood Spirit Mountain on her own? This is all due to my poor discipline as a big sister. Grandfather, it's all my fault." As she said this, she had already walked up to Hellion's side. Her eyes were filled with sorrow, half kneeling on the ground. Seeing Hellioning in such a state, how could the old man still blame her? He sighed lightly and shook his head. "It's not your fault. Yuera is indeed too reckless. You should get up first. This time when she comes back, I'll definitely discipline her." This time, he had made up his mind to be ruthless, even his gaze was determined. "No matter how much trouble Yuera causes in Wushang City, I will always protect her. She is my most beloved granddaughter. She has lost her father and mother. If I don't help her, who will? However, does this girl not know how dangerous Wood Spirit Mountain is? Even if she brings the beast-repelling incense, she might not be able to drive away all the spirit beasts there." He could not continue to indulge her any longer. There was no guarantee that she would not be in danger because of his indulgence. Hellioning lowered her eyes to cover the emotion in them. She and Hellion Yu were both his granddaughters. But Hellion Yu would always be pampered no matter how mischievous she was. Everyone in the Hellion family spoiled her. Chapter 1445, The two sisters from the Hellion family too, but she. No matter how well-behaved and sensible she was, not many people would pay attention to her. She was unhappy. Not happy about this at all. Obviously. Hellion Yu was just a villain that everyone would love to kill. She was no longer capable of anything other than going around, causing trouble. So why did the Hellion family pamper her so much? Just when Hellion Su was in a hurry and a little angry, a guard hurriedly ran in. His face was filled with joy. "Master! Master, young lady is back. Second young lady is back. What? This time, Helian Su did not wait for anyone else to say more, he had already rushed out. Initially, he really wanted to scold her, but after seeing that tragic little figure, all the anger he had earlier dissipated, and the only thing that remained was a pity. Grandfather, Helian Yu's small face was dirty, and her entire body was in a mess, even the servant beside her looked miserable. But the servant was looking at Helian Yu with eyes filled with sorrow. She did not understand why her young lady had to make herself so miserable before returning. It was spoiling her image. At the same time, Helian Ing followed behind her grandfather. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw Helian Yu's miserable appearance. Initially, she thought that her grandfather would definitely teach Helian Yu a lesson this time, but who knew that this Helian Yu had touched their grandfather's heart. She had made such a mess of herself that her grandfather would never be able to bring himself to scold her. As expected, Helian Su trembled and stretched his hand out, caressing Helian Yu's miserable little face. You have just gone out for a trip. How did you become such a miserable mess? Who did this to you? Me for extra chapters. Helian Yu's tears were streaming down her face. Grandfather, Xiao Xiao and I were on our way to Wood Spirit Mountain to look for flame fruit. But halfway through our journey, someone stole half of our beast-repelling incense, and the Jia family and the Fong family have even chased after us and wanted to kill me. If I hadn't met that beautiful girl, I'm afraid that I would have already died and won't be able to come back. Boom! A surge of anger rushed straight to his head. Helian Zu's eyes turned red, and he was like an angry lion. The Jia family. The Fong family. How dare these people touch my granddaughter? Guards, prepare the troops and horses immediately. I will personally go there to seek justice for my granddaughter. Just now, he had verbally said that he was going to teach her a lesson, but in the blink of an eye, it turned out that he was teaching others a lesson. Helian Yu lowered her small head, a silent smile curving the corners of her mouth. In this way, the Jia family's people will no longer be able to look for trouble with Xiao Qing, right? No one can save them. Grandfather, Helian Ying's heart sank, but her face remained calm, smiling gently. The Jia family and the Fong family would definitely not dare to touch my sister. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. The anger on Helian Zu's old face suddenly disappeared. Helian Ing continued, moreover, it is normal for the Jia family to be jealous of my sister. The eldest young lady of the Jia family was only joking about how she would marry Master Lianqing, but my sister still beat her up. The young lady of the Fong family is even more innocent. Master Lianqing only helped her when she accidentally fell, and my sister had also beat that girl in public. These are all my sister's fault. Grandfather, we can't be so unreasonable. Otherwise, what will the world say about our Helian family? Chapter 1446. The two sisters from the Helian family. The words she had said were spoken righteously as she looked at Helian Yu accusingly. Now, since younger sister is unharmed, why don't we just let it slide? In the future, if the Jia family comes and finds trouble with younger sister, it won't be too late for us to take action then. Helian Yu harumphed. That despicable person from the Jia family did not just say that she wanted to marry elder brother Lianqing. She had even said I'm small, that my chest isn't as big as hers and that I'm not fit to marry elder brother Lianqing. The despicable person from the Fong family was even worse. She had purposely fallen into elder brother Lianqing's arms. I didn't punish them wrongly. She hugged Helian Zu's arm while crying as her dirty little face seemed extremely pitiful. Grandfather, if it wasn't because somebody had saved me this time around, I wouldn't have been able to ever return again. Seeing Helian Ing was still going to speak, Helian Su calmly glanced past her. Yinger, where is your younger sister? Speaking on other people's behalf, where does it leave your sister? Helianing felt her heart jolt as she bit on her pale lip. Grandfather, I did not mean that. I just wanted to think about the Helian family clan's reputation. Reputation? Helian Su sneered. My Helian family's reputation was built by slowly fighting for it. I don't need the younger generations to help me fight to obtain this bit of reputation. Guards, fire this fellow immediately. I want to find the Jia family's little ones to settle the score. Since they have dared to attack my granddaughter, they must pay the price. Helianing saw Helian Zu's angry expression, and she clenched her fists tightly. Her heart was throbbing in pain. However, she also understood that no matter what she said, her grandfather would not listen to a single sentence. Therefore, she looked at Helian Yu and then turned around to leave. This glance was so cold it was as if countless daggers were slashing across Helian Yu's small face, making her expression darken slightly. In the backyard. In a room in the eastern wing, Helianing had just walked into the room and locked the door. With a swish, she swept all the porcelain wares on the table onto the ground. Her face was no longer meek and gentle like before. Her gaze was malevolent. Based on what? Just based on what it was that grandfather pampered Helian Yu every time. This fatherless, motherless, uneducated, despicable person. Me for extra chapters. She sat down angrily and poured herself a cup of water. When she had just drunk a mouthful, her room's door was pushed open. She stood up in a flurry and the cup in her hand also fell to the ground and broke into pieces. Her face paled even more, especially when she saw who the person at the door was. Father, outside the door, a middle-aged man dressed in a brocade slowly entered. He saw the mess on the ground and frowned slightly. Yinger, what are you doing? Helian Ying's face paled as her voice trembled. Hi, Yinger, I know that you are very dissatisfied with Yuer, but she is still your younger sister. Don't think that I don't know that it was you who had gotten someone to release the news to her and lured her into Wood Spirit Mountain. The middle-aged man's tone was sharp and even the way he looked at Helianing seemed accusatory. Helian Ying's heart almost stopped beating, and she even found it difficult to breathe. Father, I didn't. After Yuer left, I went to inquire about her and found the two people. They personally told me that it was you who has instructed your personal maid to seek them out. The middle-aged man slowly approached Helianing and each step he took forward seemed very heavy. Yinger, in the past you were obviously not like this. Why have you become so malicious now? Helianing clenched her fists tightly. At this moment, she actually felt like her body had lost all its strength. The corners of her lips subconsciously curled up into a bitter smile. Chapter 1447, Is Helian Yu your daughter? Why? Why is it that each and every one of you only pampers Helian Yu? Grandfather is the same, General Tianya is the same, and even you, my biological father, is doing the same. Even Feng Lianqing. He is extremely cold toward everyone. However, he is still able to exchange a few sentences with Helian Yu alone. It was clear that I am more outstanding and more mature. Why is it that everyone only has Helian Yu in their hearts? Father, do you really not understand why, or are you pretending not to understand why I have become like this? Helianing sneered. The corner of her lips curled up into a sarcastic sneer as she slowly approached Helian Yufei. Exactly who is your biological daughter? It's fine that grandfather seems to favor her more. After all, she is an orphan who is fatherless and motherless. You are my biological father, why do you need to favor that orphan girl? Slap. She had just finished speaking when a slap grazed her cheek. Helian Ying's hair came undone messily and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her lips. She wiped the trace of blood from the corner of her lips and raised her head to look at the man who had exploded in anger. The sneer in her heart grew even wider. See, this was her biological father. Helping an orphan girl to mistreat his own biological daughter like this. She is not an orphan girl. She is my brother's and your uncle's daughter. This Hellion family is her family. She still has her grandfather and her eldest uncle. Who said she is an orphan? Hellion Feiyu was so angry that his whole body was trembling. His gaze was filled with pain. Perhaps he could not understand, why had his own daughter become like this? Or was this her true colors? I just want to know, am I your biological daughter or not? Hellion Ying raised her head and looked directly at Hellion Yufei. Hellion Yufei closed his eyes in deep pain. He slowly opened them again. Yinger, if you are not my daughter when you harm Yuer like this, do you think I would still help you to hide it? Till now, the old master does not know of this matter. The two people who disguised as guards of the general's manor have also been disposed of by me. As for your personal maid, you should deal with it as you see fit. However, I hope that there won't be a next time for this matter. He paused and lowered his gaze. Also, the people of the Jia family and the Fong family. Was it you who notified them, me for extra chapters? Hellion Ying bit her lower lip hard, not making a sound. Hellion Yufei shook his head in disappointment. Even if you don't say it, I can still guess it. If the next time Yuer is in any danger, I will tell the old master about this matter. Yinger, not to mention the old master, with the way General Tianya looks out for Yuer, do you think that he would just let things be? Hellion Ying's body was trembling. She did not understand why Tianya treated Hellion Yu as someone so important. She was just a woman who knew how to cause unnecessary troubles. Why? Why are all of you treating me like this just because of Hellion Yu? Hellion Ying's eyes were full of pain. She raised her gaze and stared at Hellion Yufei. Her voice was a little hoarse. I want to know, why? Why? Hellion Yufei gave a bitter laugh. Perhaps this was what he owed his second younger brother and his sister-in-law. Yinger, I do not hope that there will be a next time for these kinds of matters. I can protect you once, but there will not be a second time. Hellion Yufei did not say anything more, and having said that, he turned around and left the room. Hellion Ying ruthlessly kicked the table and chairs. Her face was so gloomy and dark like deep waters as she ruthlessly gritted her teeth. Hellion Yu. I will not let you snatch away everything that is mine. I will get everything that belongs to me back. Chapter 1449, Is Hellion Yu your daughter? 3. All the matters that happened back then were like a mirror as they flashed by before her. You're right, she had indeed saved me. However, I was also originally dragged in it by the Hellion family. Those were enemies of the Hellion family. Wasn't it only right that your brother saved me? I was dragged into it by you all. Yu Qin raised her head. Furthermore, this has already passed for so many years, and I have been obedient to you all these years, caring for Hellion Yu so well that even Yinger is jealous. Is this not enough? She approached Hellion Yufei step by step, asking, how long exactly are you going to neglect Yinger for her? Your repayment of their grace should already be fully repaid by now, right? It has been so many years and it still isn't enough. We don't owe Hellion Yu anything anymore. It was as if it was the first time Hellion Yufei knew Yu Qin as he looked at her like he was looking at a stranger. Back then, the second younger brother and sister-in-law did not mind their previous grievances and had saved her and Yinger. In the end, they themselves never returned. All these years, Yu Qin was indeed obedient and had treated Yuer as her own. However, he had never thought that she had long felt that she had repaid their saving grace. Their lives were exchanged with the lives of 2 others. How could it be possible for such a grace to ever be repaid? They did not just owe them 2 lives, they also owed Yue her parents. What I owe them is for life. Helian Yufei's gaze was full of disappointment. Furthermore, I have never neglected Yinger. She is my biological daughter. How could I not love her? It was just that, he had to cut his love into 2 portions, that was all. Everything that Yinger had, he would also definitely give Yue a portion. If the 2 of them fell sick at the same time, he would get Yuqin to accompany Yinger while he accompanied Yue. Was it really wrong? His biological daughter was exchanged with the lives of his younger brother and sister-in-law. Why could he not give Yue love, care, and concern? Was he not allowed to care about others just because he was Yinger's father? Normally, even if I love Yue, I have never mistreated Yinger. The 2 of them are the same to me. Helian Yufei's eyes were filled with pain and regret. This time, I did not hold back and have hit Yinger because she has crossed the line. It was really too much. Usually, he could not bear to even touch a finger of hers. However, she really should not have harmed Yue like this. Yuqin was stunned as she suddenly pounced at Helian Yufei as if she were crazy. Me for extra chapters. Helian Yufei, you animal. It is fine that you lay your hands on me. Yinger is your daughter, how could you actually hit her? She raised her hand as she ruthlessly rushed toward Helian Yufei. However, she did not even get to touch Helian Yufei's face when he grabbed her hand. His actions were fast and strong. He grabbed her wrist so hard that it hurt. Her face was filled with anger as she glared at Helian Yufei hatefully. That's enough. Helian Yufei's voice was somber. Even spirit beasts know how to repay favors. Why is it that my wife and daughter are treating the daughter of their saviors like this? Yuqin, in this Helian family, you better be a little wiser. My mother is no longer around, no one will protect you. Back then, he was forced by his mother to marry for a marital alliance because Yuqin's mother was his mother's niece. Back then, he was originally thinking that whoever he married was the same as long as she knew her place. He would not mind who his wife was. If he had known that Yuqin's character was like this, perhaps he would not have married her back then. Thawed. Helian Yufei gave a strong push and Yuqin was pushed onto the ground. When sister-in-law was around, I had given you too many chances. Now, in these past few years, I saw that you have been treating Yue quite well and thought that you have repented. I never thought that you were just holding back. It really is like the saying a leopard can't change its spots. Chapter 1450, Is Helian Yu your daughter? For Yuqin was so angry that her whole body was trembling. If it were not because she could not defeat Helian Yufei, she would have immediately pounced over and torn him into pieces. You have never forgotten Tian, you have never forgotten her. That's why Helian Yu is definitely your daughter. You have long rekindled your romance. Helian Yufei was too tired to say anything more. Perhaps it was just toward Yuqin that he did not even want to explain anymore. If Tian had wished to marry other people back then, he would still try and put up a fight, but she was his sister-in-law. No matter what, he would not do such a thing like incest. If you say so, then it is so. It's up to you whatever you want to believe. After he finished speaking, he did not say anything more as he walked past Yuqin, leaving on his own. Outside the courtyard, Helian Yu's body went stiff. She looked at Helian Yufei's leaving back in a daze. A stream of tears flowed from her eyes and wet her entire face. Xiao. Eldest uncle's wife just now said that. I am eldest uncle's daughter. Why? How did she become eldest uncle's daughter? Her father was clearly the second master of the Helian family. Young lady, Xiao looked at Helian Yu worriedly and wanted to say a few words of comfort, but found herself unable to do so. Helian Yu bit down on her lip. Her petite body was trembling, and her face was pale. No wonder. No wonder Helianing did not like her. It turned out that she was actually eldest uncle's daughter. Now it made sense. Helianing disliking her was expected. Just like she had never liked Helianing. Actually, Helian could not be blamed for misunderstanding the situation. She had arrived too late and had only overheard the last few sentences. She did not even know what was discussed earlier on. The moment Yuqin raised her head, she saw Helian's pale, small face. Her heart leaped as she immediately put on her guard. Just now those words. How much did the despicable little one hear? Without waiting for Yuqin to think further, Helian's trembling voice could be heard once more. Eldest aunt, is what you said just now true? That I am eldest uncle's daughter, me for extra chapters. The originally guarded Yuqin completely let down her guard after she heard this. It seems like this despicable little one still does not know the cause of Tian husband and wife duo's death. Otherwise, she definitely would not be speaking in such a tone. Thinking about this, she looked at Helian coldly. That's right. You are Tian and Helian Yufei's biological daughter. You all have hurt Yinger too deeply. From the beginning, he had neglected Yinger for you. And you are still trying to get her in trouble at every instance. Helian's small face became even paler. She did not even know where to put her hands. There was no longer the arrogance and dominance of the past in her, but instead, there was a feeling of utter disbelief. Helianing has always found me unpleasant to her eyes. Did she already know about this long ago? She bit her lip and continued to ask. Yuqin sneered. Naturally it is so. My family's Yinger is an understanding and obedient child. If it were not the case, do you think she would have hated you? She would never have hated someone without a reason. This is all because you all owe it to her. Helian's body went limp. It was Helian who owed her, Helianing. It was Helian who owed them both, Helianing and Yuqin. Yufei does not wish for too many people to know about this. I also hope that you will not simply talk nonsense and make things difficult for Yufei. Yuqin's gaze was menacing. All these years, I have been hurt so deeply by your mother and you. I have even let go of all my grievances and treated you as my own. If it were not because Yinger is so unhappy this time around, would not have done this. Helian, seeing that I have been quite good to you in the past and that you owe it to us, I hope that you don't look for Yufei anymore and don't say anything more to him. Helian lowered her gaze as a bitter smile hung on her pale face. Chapter 1451, Xiaoye was taken away. She was actually eldest uncle's daughter. I got it. Eldest aunt, I will not let eldest uncle know. Suddenly, Helian raised her small head as her gaze was determined, not containing the least bit of hesitation. Yuqin clenched her fists tightly, and after a long while, she finally released them. She did not even glance at Helian before she turned around and left. She did not know if doing this was right or wrong. However, if she did not do so, she could not vent the malicious anger within her. Thinking about it, Yuqin slowly let out an evil sigh, her gaze full of menace. Don't blame eldest aunt. If you want to blame it on someone or something, just blame it on the fact that you are Tian's daughter. You are the daughter of the person your eldest uncle once liked. To repay Tian's grace, she had already tolerated her existence for over 10 years. It was already sufficient. She did not wish to continue tolerating that fact and cause her own daughter to suffer endless harm. Helian quietly looked at Yuqin's departing figure, and after a while, she turned back around. Her entire body was a little stiff, perhaps somewhat unable to fully regain her senses from all the information she had just received. Young lady, Xiao cried. You are still required to inform eldest master that you know about this matter. After all, enough. Helion shouted sharply. He is forever my eldest uncle. It will not change anything, nor is it possible to ever change anything. Furthermore, she was not willing to change anything. All these years, she had been arrogant in Wushang City. If this matter was made known to others, who knew how they would laugh at her? This was something she did not wish ever to experience. Helion took a deep breath. Until now, she still felt her heart trembling. She bit down hard on her lip and forced herself to regain composure. Xiao, I wish to go and see elder brother Lianqing. Perhaps she would only feel better by seeing Feng Lianqing. It was a pity that this time, Helion had ended up empty-handed. By the time she arrived at the Feng Manor, she had noticed that Feng Lianqing had received a task and left. She could only leave in disappointment. Wushang City. Me for extra chapters. Nearby was a spirit beast mountain range. It was known as Beast Mountain. Previously, Si had warned Nan Xian not to bring Feng Ruching into the spirit beast's territory. Furthermore, he could not make any promises to the spirit beasts. However, in the end, they still unintentionally dwelled into the deeper parts of the place. Fu Qin, Feng Ruching lowered her gaze and asked. Are you sure Xiaoye is here? In the medium, Fu Chen's voice rang out. I am not very sure either. The moment he finished speaking, Fu Chen could feel Feng Ruching's face darkening. He immediately said, however, her scent has indeed disappeared from this point onward. From what I can tell, she should have been taken away by someone. That person should have some kind of token on him that blocked her breath from spreading. Taken away. Feng Ruching squinted. Who was it that had taken Xiaoye away? Xiaoye seemed to have originated from Land of No Return. Could it be that she was in the hands of someone she once knew in Land of No Return? I need to find Xiaoye, not merely for Xiao Yin's sake, also. I have this nagging feeling that I seem to know Xiaoye. This kind of familiar feeling that was in her bones could not be wrong. No matter what, she could not let anyone bully her. Nan Xian, who was dressed in white, stood calmly by Feng Ruching's side. He calmly and comfortingly said, Qing'er, you don't have to be too worried. She is not as simple as you think she is. There would also be not much danger. Chapter 1452, Feng Lianqing Feng Ruching nodded slightly. However, without seeing Xiaoye with her own eyes, her heart seemed to be unable to be at peace. Spiritual qi was dense at one of the peaks that disappeared into the clouds on the mountain range. In a deep pool, a black dragon was circling in the spiritual pool where thick mist gathered. It was obviously very comfortable, and by its side, two little servants were massaging it. It is still more comfortable in the old home. The spiritual qi is so much thicker than in Sangyu mainland. The only pity is that little Nine is missing. Yes, if little Nine was here, then it would be even better. Suddenly, the black dragon raised its head and looked at the sky. It suddenly squinted, and a different light flashed in its eyes. Was that little Nine's breath just now? His little Nine had long been carved into his memories. Even if she was 1,000 miles apart, it could notice her presence. Swish! Suddenly, the black dragon leaped out of the deep pool. Water splashed everywhere. He leaped into the void, and black mist appeared all around it. Its entire body was elongated in the black mist. A handsome young man slowly walked out of the black mist. The young man looked delicate and handsome. He was tall as he stood naked with his snow-white skin glinting under the reflection of the sunlight. The two servants had already lowered their heads, not daring to look at this young man who was as domineering as a king, directly. They did not even dare to take a peek as they kneeled on the ground. The corner of the young man's lips curled upward into a moving smile. He raised his hand, and a black robe nearby fell into his hands. In less than a moment, it was already draped around his body. I'm still not used to humans' clothes. However, if I don't wear clothes when I seek little Nine, she will definitely beat me up. It was just an animal that was condensed from spiritual chi. How could it be like humans, wearing clothes and eating food? 1,000 years ago, every time he appeared naked before little Nine, she would knock him down to the ground and bash him up violently. However, the more violent little Nine was, the more he liked her. Compared to being a person, I feel that days of being a dragon or a dog are much more comfortable. There is someone to take care of me, and there is no need to wear clothes. So annoying. Furthermore, there would always be people feeding me. However, I have no choice. Little Nine is human. If I don't turn myself into a human, what qualifications do I have to pursue little Nine? The black dragon turned to look at the servant girls kneeling on the ground. His brows were proud and showy with an insufferable arrogance. Go and clean up my cave. Little Nine is about to return soon. Me for extra chapters. Yes. The servant girls lowered their heads as they replied respectfully. The black dragon glanced at the servant girls, turned around, and went forward without looking back, disappearing into the clouds in a blink of an eye. At the same time, in the Spirit Beast mountain range, a fierce howl suddenly rang out. Just as Feng-Ruching raised her eyes to take a look, she saw a mighty, fierce lion pouncing over, opening its big mouth, just about to bite down on her. Nan Xian's gaze turned cold slightly. Just as he was about to take action, a long arrow flew through the air, and with a hiss, pierced into the lion's head. Blood splattered everywhere as the lion crumbled to the ground with a rumble. Feng-Ruching was slightly stunned. Are the spirit beasts here all so brutal? They did not seem to be as cute as the spirit beasts from Tsangyu mainland. No matter what, seeing these spirit beasts, she missed the snow wolf a little. Feng-Ruching slowly raised her head and looked in the direction in which the arrow came from. Suddenly, a handsome face that seemed to have been carved to perfection appeared before her. The man was dressed in green, looking mighty, outstanding, and wise. A bow was in his hand. His skin was the tone of wheat, and his lips were thin like a knife. Chapter 1453, Feng Lianqing 2, Big Brother Feng. Behind the man, a group of people slowly appeared. Besides those guards, the most eye-catching person was an elegant young maiden dressed in green. She walked to Feng Lianqing's side and lowered her head to look at the lion lying in the middle of a pool of blood as her beautiful brows furrowed slightly. We still need to find the young prince, His Highness. Don't waste time here with unrelated people. Yesterday, the young prince, His Highness, had disappeared. Feng Lianqing was also coincidentally free from any tasks in Wushang City, and thus, Tianya had sent him to search for the young prince. This spirit beast mountain range was so big. Who knew where the little prince had run off to? Perhaps he had been swallowed by some spirit beasts. The young maiden pouted. She did not have any positive feelings toward that domineering and unruly little fatty. In her eyes, this walking calamity should be swallowed by spirit beasts. It was just that. When the young maiden raised her eyes to look at the two people in front of her, she paused, stopping at Nan Xian's handsome and cold face. She was unable to avert her gaze a little. Lianni, let's go. Feng Lianqing, on the other hand, did not seem to notice too much. He had just coincidentally seen a spirit beast acting fiercely and had lifted a hand in assistance. He also did not wish to obtain any kind of repayment. Wait, Lianni suddenly stopped Feng Lianqing. Her gaze was concentrated on Nan Xian from the beginning to the end and had never left. This master, just now Big Brother Fong saved you. We plan to see a good deed through till the end. This Spirit Beast mountain range is too dangerous. Why don't you, and your wife journey with us? It'll also make it easier for us to see the good deed through till the end. Feng Lianqing was speechless. He glanced at Lianyi, baffled. This girl is usually not so nosy, and now she is talking about seeing a good deed through to the end. When has she ever done a good deed? No need, Nan Xian frowned. Just as he finished speaking, Feng Ruqing suddenly pinched his wrist and smiled slightly. Sure. Hearing this, Nan Xian looked at Feng Ruqing. Seeing the smile on the young maiden's face, he also did not say anything else, equating to consenting to her actions. He trusted Qing'er. Qing'er definitely had her reasons for doing so. He just needed to believe in her. That was enough. Lianyi slowly let out a sigh of relief as she wore a smile on her pretty face. She looked at Feng Lianqing. Big Brother Feng doesn't mind, right? Feng Lianqing was speechless. Me for extra chapters. He really minded. However, seeing Feng Ruqing's abdomen, he sighed gently. Just forget it. Just be a good person to the end. Since this lady is pregnant, then just protect her along her journey. In case she meets with the same kind of danger. I am Feng Lianqing. How shall I address the two of you? Feng Ruqing raised her brow. How coincidental. My surname is also Feng. I am Feng Ruqing. He is my husband, Nan Xian. Indeed, how coincidental. Our meeting today can also be considered fated. The two of you should just follow us. Although our journey is a little dangerous, the two of you being in this Spirit Beast mountain range alone would be even more dangerous. A smile hung on the man's face as he said gently. Feng Ruqing hesitated and asked, the Spirit Beasts in the Spirit Beast mountain range. Are they very cruel? Spirit Beasts are always cruel. Feng Lianqing smiled. Because weak Spirit Beasts are unable to survive. Those that look good might still be able to become pets for humans, but those with weak cultivation, they would only become food for humans and would be rejected by other Spirit Beasts, making it tough for them to be unable to survive. His statement was met with silence. Those little wolves like the snow wolf would immediately be captured to become food after arriving at Land of No Return. It seemed like it was a good decision not to have allowed the snow wolf to follow them on this expedition. How great was it to have allowed it to stay safely in Sangyu mainland and be the wolf butler? Even if the humans did not bully it, it was likely that these spirit beasts of the same species would not have allowed it to live. It was just too pitiful. Chapter 1454, The Little Snake's Violent Temper. Lianyi, what on earth are you doing? When Feng Ruqing and the rest were not paying attention, Feng Lianqing dragged Lianyi to the side coldly. I never knew you are such a busybody. For example, when he had saved the two people just now, Lianyi had even disdained him for wasting time. Not to mention, letting others join them in their journey. Lianyi glanced at Nan Xian from the corner of her eyes. Her heart immediately skipped a few beats, but her expression remained unchanging. Nothing. We should see a good deed through to the end. They are not safe in this place, so why not journey together? Feng Lianqing was speechless. He really did not believe that Lianyi would be so kind. He did not have any positive feelings about Lianyi, but neither did he have any bad feelings. After hearing her say so, he did not say anything more and refocused his eyes ahead. Let's continue walking. Not far behind, Feng Ruqing was casually following after the people in front. Her gaze remained on Lianyi from the beginning to the end. It was not known what she was thinking. Nan Xian, aren't you going to ask me why? Nan Xian paused and smiled slightly. If you wish to talk about it, naturally, you would tell me. If you don't wish to talk about it, I will not ask too much. Oh. Feng Ruqing squinted. Don't you feel that this woman is a little familiar? Familiar. Nan Xian looked at Lianya's back for a long time, trying to recall exactly where he had seen her before. Could it be that she had seduced Qing'er before? Suddenly, Nan Xian's heart grew cold, and even the way he looked at Lianya's back was cold. Coincidentally, Lianya turned her head back and met the man's gaze at this moment. Her heart leaped out of control. Her face had turned red as well. She immediately retracted her gaze as she nervously twisted her sleeve. Just now, was he peeking at her? If it were any other man, when his wife was pregnant, and he was still sneaking a look at her, she would definitely disdain and hate it. However, now, she only had delight in her heart. Me for extra chapters. This man was just too beautiful. He was the most beautiful amongst all the men she had ever seen. He was so beautiful that one could not forget him after a single glance and could not help but wish to press him beneath her body. Originally, she saw that this man already had a wife and just wished to take a few more looks at him, and that was why she had asked him to journey together. However, she never thought that he actually had some interest in her. Otherwise, why was he sneakily looking at her? I don't feel so. Behind, Nan Xian spoke seriously. Qing'er, you have definitely seen it wrongly. I don't think she looks familiar. Don't you feel that? Feng Ruqing's eyes had an odd light. She looks a little like Tang Yin. However, Tang Yin was a beast man. The one before them was human. She and Tang Yin also had very different styles. Tang Yin was cute and pretty, easily likable. This girl was a little too valiant. Her brows were fierce and majestic like a female general's. However, her features were a little like Tang Yin. If it were not because she was very familiar with Tang Yin, she would not have noticed it at a glance either. State Preceptor, I believe in my intuition. Feng Ruqing raised her brows. Furthermore, Xiaoye is missing. I must find her. She would not give up even if there were just a thread of hope. She was worried that if she gave up, Xiaoye would be in danger. Back then, when the two of them had just met, Xiaoye was riddled in wounds. The wounds were so terrible that it was hard to bear. She could not let her endure this kind of pain again. Nan Xian was stunned. He took another look at Lianya, trying to see which part of her looked like Tang Yin. However, no matter how he tried to dig through his mind, he could not recall exactly what Tang Yin looked like, and so he eventually gave up. Chapter 1455, The Little Snake's Violent Temper too, even to the point where, after being silent for a long while, he turned his head to look at Feng Ruqing. Who is Tang Yin? Is she a woman who seduced you too? Feng Ruqing was speechless as she silently mourned for Tang Yin for about 3 seconds. No matter what, Tang Yin was also someone who had almost become Nan Xian's fiancé. However, after meeting a few times, he was still asking her who Tang Yin was. It was also a good thing that Tang Yin had not liked Nan Xian since a long time ago. Otherwise, this sentence would definitely have thrown her into hell. Feng Ruqing pondered for 3 seconds and finally asked, then, do you remember who Gui is? I do, Nan Xian pursed his lips. Second uncle's fiancée. She is not very likable. Why? She is not a woman of virtue. After having a fiancé, she is still sticking to you. So, you shouldn't be too close to her in the future. She is about to marry second uncle. If you are too close to her, it is not good for her reputation. Fu Chen, who was sitting in the medium resting, heard Nan Xian's words and was in shock. He frowned hard as the corner of his lips twitched non-stop. You are just jealous. But you have actually gone and painted Gui as a woman without virtue. Mother is not a man, so how is Gui a woman without virtue? However, his mother would definitely not be the same kind of person as this cheap father. She would definitely not believe these words he had said. Enriching was stunned at first. Then, she pondered about it for a bit as she stroked her chin with her fingers. Yes, the state preceptor's words make a lot of sense. Next time, I will stay further away from her. It is really not good for her reputation. After all, she is to marry second uncle. Fu Chen was speechless. He felt as if a slap had been thrown at his face, and his expression was extremely unsightly. When has mother become such a conservative person? Indeed, after being with Nan Xian, she has changed a lot. She was no longer the mother I used to know. Just at this moment, a slow, lazy voice rang out. Where is this place? A small green snake tunneled out of Nan Xian's sleeve. It shook its head in a blur as its gaze was sluggish. Are we in Forest of Spirit Beasts? That's not right. This place is not quite like Forest of Spirit Beasts. It does not have the scent that I am familiar with, me for extra chapters. Enriching tilted her head to look at the little green snake in wonder. Xiao Qing, why are you here as well? Qing Zhu was speechless. What was it to do? It suddenly wanted to run away from home. This time it would never return. We have already left Lu Yun Kingdom for almost half a month. When did you start following us? Why have I not noticed you? Half a month. Qing Zhu was stunned. I have already been asleep for half a month. Enriching was speechless as she quietly looked at the sun and the sky before looking at Qing Zhu. Snakes hibernate during winter. But winter has yet to arrive, and you are already hibernating in advance. If I wait for you to hibernate next winter, I can make you into snake soup, and you wouldn't even know it. Qing Zhu suddenly did not wish to speak to Enriching anymore. Enriching was smiling from the beginning to the end. State Preceptor, do you think my idea would work? After all, Xiao Qing would not suffer then. The moment it wakes from its sleep, its spirit would have left its body. Demon. Qing Zhu immediately shrank back and glared at Enriching fiercely. However, after he noticed Nan Xian's cold gaze, he immediately put on a fawning smile. What Princess said is right. Next time I will no longer hibernate during winter. Pfft, no longer hibernate in summer. I will remain awake at all times. Want to make me into snake soup? Dream on. I won't let you have the chance. Is this Snake Master's pet? How cute. Chapter 1456, The Little Snake's Violent Temper 3. A voice suddenly could be heard from up ahead and Qing Zhu could not help but cock its head ahead. When he saw the glint in Lianya's eyes, he sneered. Another woman mesmerized by my owner's beauty. Fool. None of those who fought with the princess had a good ending. Qing Zhu indifferently pursed his lips as if he could already predict the foolish person's ending. Lianya's eyes were full of smiles. I really like snakes, these kinds of animals. This snake looks so cute. What is it called? Qing Zhu's eyes were full of anger and hatred. You are the animal. Your whole family is animals. I am obviously a pet. A pet. It was a pity that Liany did not notice the anger in Qing Zhu's eyes and reached out to touch it. Qing Zhu opened its mouth, and with a crack, it bit Lianya's finger ruthlessly. Ah! A heart-wrenching sound echoed through the sky and shocked the whole mountain until the birds flew away. I'm so sorry. Enriching smiled and swept Qing Zhu into her arm. Our family's little snake doesn't have a very good temper. It doesn't like being touched by strangers. Furthermore, people should not simply touch other people's pets. Qing Zhu stayed in Feng Ruking's hands without any show of temper. Its body was soft as its gaze was full of sadness. However, when it looked at Lianyi, it was fierce. Lianyi's face turned green. She held her finger tightly as her gaze was full of anger. Feng Lianqing, on the hand, desperately wished that he could find a hole and hide in it. He glared at Lianyi and then looked at Feng Ruqing. I apologize. Madam, Lianyi is immature. She should not have touched your little pet. Big brother Feng. That's enough. Are you disdaining the fact that you have not embarrassed yourself enough? All spirit beasts don't have good tempers. You have reached out your hand to pet it without asking for others' permission. Who can you blame for being bitten? Feng Lianqing did not seem very happy about it. However, compared to Lianyi, he felt that Lianyi had embarrassed him. Even a 3-year-old child knows not to touch other people's spirit beast. Was this woman so muddled by beauty today? She has actually gone and touched other people's snakes. Being bitten is also what she deserved. If I covered up Lianyi's wrongdoings, and Master found out about it when we returned, I will surely be taught a lesson. Lianyi bit on her lip hard. Her face was pale, and her expression unsightly. Me for extra chapters. Oh, that's right. Feng Ruking's finger patted Qing Zhu's little head as she smiled. My family's little snake's teeth are venomous. What? Lianyi's face turned pale. Her eyes were filled with panic. Where is the antidote? Feng Ruqing looked at Nan Xian. Nan Xian, do you have the antidote? Nan Xian calmly shook his head. There has never been a person stupid enough to touch Xiao Qing. Naturally, there is no antidote. Isn't she the first person Xiao Qing has bitten? After hearing Nan Xian's words, Lianyi, who had initially wanted to cry, was almost unable to hold back on her tears anymore. The good thing was that she ultimately held it in because she did not wish to embarrass herself further. It was just that both of her beautiful eyes were full of suffering and suppressed tolerance. She looked really pitiful. Feng Ruking's gaze was a little doubtful. Didn't Xiao Qing bite Feng Rushuang before? Feng Rushuang. Nan Xian frowned, and after taking a long while to ponder, he finally recalled who the person was. It is that daughter who was initially forced onto Lord Father-in-law. When did Xiao Qing bite her? Feng Ruqing did not know whether to pity Feng Rushuang or to feel delighted on her behalf. Because Nan Xian was finally able to remember her name. It was just a pity that he had forgotten the matter of how Feng Rushuang was bitten by Xiao Qing when she tried to climb into his bed. She had initially tried to hook up with you, and Xiao Qing couldn't bear to watch and had bitten her. Don't you remember any more? Chapter 1457, Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. Back then, you and I were not familiar with each other yet. Nan Xian hesitated. That's why I don't remember her. Later on, we got to know each other better. Everything she did was related to you, so naturally, I have some impression. My memory is not used to remember unimportant people. I just need to remember things related to you. That will do. My memory is not used to remember unimportant people. I just need to remember things related to you. That will do. Feng Ruqing was stunned. After that, she raised her gaze and looked into the man's calm eyes. He had said these words without his face turning red or his heart racing. Even Qing Zhu felt a little embarrassed. Master Nan Xian, Madam, Feng Lianqing coughed, interrupting the two people who acted as if no one was around them. Lianyi did not do it on purpose just now. I was wondering if the two of you could kindly bring out the antidote. I will definitely be extremely grateful. He saw that Lianyi was about to say something else. He immediately tugged her arm, warning her with a gaze. In the end, Liani swallowed back the words that were at the tip of her tongue. Her gaze was full of reluctance and suffering. Enriching looked at Liani, and she took out a spirit herb from the medium and threw it to her. Eat it. Then you'll be able to get rid of the venom. Liani looked at Enriching a little skeptically and did not dare to consume the spirit herb, fearing that this woman would intentionally harm her. However, Enriching was not bothered about her. She shrugged and smiled at Lianqing. I have already given her the antidote. She does not eat it because she suspects that I have other intentions. If she dies when the venom acts up, don't blame me. Lianqing's expression changed slightly as he looked at Liani. I am here. You don't have to worry about anything. You brought everything that happened to yourself. Could it be that you think Master would definitely stand on your side? Master has never been a person to let wrongdoings go unpunished. Master had always differentiated grace and grudges. He only asked to know the rights and the wrongs, and had never covered up or protected the people who had done wrong. No matter who it was the same. There were no exceptions. So, he, too, had never dared to use his master's name to cause trouble outside. Otherwise, his master would definitely beat him to death. Even though master was more forgiving toward girls, he still did not like arrogant and willful people. Me for extra chapters. Even if master pampered Helianyu, he still disciplined her. However, Helianyu's temper could not change, and she still caused trouble even after being scolded many times by master. Liani seemed to have thought of Tian Ya's bad temper and held in this anger of hers, swallowing the spirit herb in her hand. The moment the spirit herb entered her abdomen, she only felt as if her stomach was on fire and was incredibly hard to bear. The feeling of needing to relieve herself washed over her as she let out a loud fart. Instantly the bad smell floated over with the wind and entered everyone's nostrils. The crowd immediately took 2 steps backward and maintained a distance from her. Their eyes were full of disdain. Luckily, Lianqing still remembered their friendship in the past and did not leave her behind as he forcefully held his breath and stood by her side regardless of how that bad smell made him frown and how difficult it was for him to breathe. You, Lianya's eyes widened as she looked at Enriching angrily. What exactly did you give to me? The antidote. Enriching shrugged. You have already excreted the venom. What now? Is there still any problem? Lianya's face was full of shame and anger, and she wished desperately that she could find a hole to tunnel into. Especially for the fact that she had made a fool of herself in front of this immortal-like man. She did not even have the bravery to continue living. Liani, that's enough. Lianqing's voice when he spoke sounded a little odd. It was like his throat was being pressed against, and he did not dare to inhale too strongly. Go and tidy up a bit immediately. We still need to continue on our journey. If we delay and the little prince meets with danger, master will definitely kick you out of General Manor. Chapter 1458. Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. Liani gritted her teeth. She did not dare to stay here, so she quickly left. After she disappeared, Lianqing exhaled deeply. This breath he held in was a little difficult to bear. However, in order not to hurt Lianya's pride, he did not dare to be like others to keep a distance from her. However, he was also worried that once he breathed, he would breathe in air with a terrible smell. There were quite a few water sources in the Spirit Beast mountain range and Liani returned very quickly. She had even changed into a new set of bright clothes as she glared at Enriching fiercely. This time, she wizened up, not saying a word, not doing anything, obediently standing by Lianqing's side. Her strong brows and heroic eyes had a calmness to it. Big brother Feng, I'm ready. Let's continue on our journey. All right. Lianqing agreed and continued leading everyone along. Enriching walked behind the group and touched her nose as she smiled. State Preceptor, her face is really thick. Just now, she had just soiled her pants, and she still can act like nothing happened. No wonder she keeps eyeing other people's husbands. Yes. Nan Xian smiled indifferently. Indeed, it is thick. If it were Xiao Qing, perhaps it would not even have the courage to continue standing here. Qing Zhu was speechless. How was this related to it? Lianyi, who was in front, had originally heard Feng Ruqing's words but remained unmoved. However, Nan Xian's sentence almost made her crumble to the ground. She felt uncomfortably panicked. Sure enough, she had diarrhea just now, which caused this fairy-like man to loathe her. Originally, he would still glance at her. It's all this woman's fault. It is just her jealousy that has caused trouble, and that's why she had purposely poisoned her and made her eat a laxative so that she made a fool of herself in front of everyone, causing Nan Xian to disdain her. Lianyi's heart felt empty as she lowered her head in dismay. Feng Lianqing, who was by her side, finally noticed something. He looked at Lianyi and then looked at Nan Xian. His voice was serious. Lianyi. Lianyi was suddenly agitated and immediately hid her emotions, smiling at Feng Lianqing. Big brother Feng, is something wrong? You can never snatch things that belong to other people. Do you understand? Feng Lianqing was serious. If it's not yours, in the end, it would still never be yours. I am only reminding you since I have known you for so many years. Otherwise, the one who would get injured in the end will be you, me for extra chapters. Lianyi's gaze dropped. In Wushang City, it was not that there was not a single outstanding man, but there was not one who could move her. Feng Lianqing was also very outstanding. Everyone in general manner hoped that she could be married to him, but she was too familiar with Feng Lianqing. They grew up together. How could feelings suddenly appear? Only him. Only the man who was behind her was one that she felt moved by with a single glance. Regardless of looks, bearing, or that cool, calm look, she liked them all. Just like an immortal in the drawings. Too bad that she had appeared too late. That man already had a wife. If she were to be his concubine, but with her identity, she simply could not possibly be someone's concubine. This kind of infatuation she had was beyond her control. She wanted to be close to him, kiss him, and even wished to bear his children. I understand, big brother Feng. Lianyi's tightly clenched fists loosened as she smiled and replied to Feng Lianqing. About her own infatuation, Lianyi did not feel that there was any wrong. It was not that she had hurt his wife. It was his wife who had attacked her first. Furthermore, even if this man already had a wife, she could still compete with her fairly. Chapter 1459. Tianya is not a person who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. 3 In the world of feelings, only the person who was not loved was the third party. If this man chose her, then his wife could only retreat. She could not be someone's concubine. Of course, Lianyi very clearly knew that Feng Lianqing could not possibly understand how she felt. So, she would not say these words aloud. She remembered that she had once looked down on those women who desired to be involved in other people's relationships. Now that it was happening to her, she felt that the principal wife sent to the cold palace was the true third party. Big brother Feng, I also remember the general's teachings. Don't be arrogant because you are pampered, don't obtain love with your looks, don't be arrogant and overbearing, and don't bully the weak. I have always remembered them. I will not go against the general's words. She would not bully that woman, but she would compete justly. If that woman was not her match, then she could not be blamed. Lianyi squinted as the corner of her lips curled up into a smile. She had even forgotten the incident where she had made a fool of herself just now. And she had forgotten Nanxian's sarcasm. Feng Lianqing did not notice the change in Lianya's heart and thought that she had already given up as he slowly let out a sigh of relief. It's good that you can understand. You are very clear of Master's character. He is not one who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. He frequently scolds even Helianyu. What more you? His words could not be more direct. Tian-Yi liked Helianyu a lot and liked her direct and non-conniving personality. However, Helianyu really liked to cause trouble unnecessarily, so, from time to time she would end up being yelled at by Tianya. I understand. Lianyi smiled. However, her eyes had a glint of unclear emotions. Tianya was not one who would let wrongdoings go unpunished. If she was not wrong and it was others who bullied her, then Tianya would definitely be extremely angry. He did not let wrongdoings go unpunished, just targeted. It was her who had provoked others first, and she was in the wrong first. So, she definitely could not go and offend this woman first. She could only wait for this woman to find fault with her. Only then Tianya could let wrongdoings go unpunished. If it were the kind of leniency without asking right or wrong, perhaps only the few little kittens of Tianya could make him so unreasonable. Besides that, there was no other person who could make him treat them differently. At Feng Manor, an old man was lazily leaning on the soft chair. His red robe was showy. A soft, cute, white little kitten was in his arms as his attitude was lazy, and the corner of his lips were curled up into a slight smile. General, me for extra chapters. Not long after, an old man entered from outside in a rush as he said respectfully, we have asked where Jia Axayan has run off to all these years. Jia Axayan had disappeared these few years, and no matter how they searched for him, they could not find him. As such, Tianya had given an order just now that they had to force information from him. He said he went to a place called Sangyu Mainland. Sangyu Mainland. Tianya immediately sat up from the soft couch. As he had suddenly used too much strength, the little kitten was accidentally sent flying, and it let out a wronged and pitiful cry. Meow. If it were in the past, after Tianya heard this sound, he would definitely pick up the little kitten feeling guilty and comforted in his arms. However, now, his entire old face was extraordinarily excited. What did you say just now? Where is the place that he went to? Sangyu Mainland. This was a name that had not been heard for over 20 years. Tianya's old tears streamed down his face. Perhaps it was because he was too agitated, he gave off a very scary feeling, scaring the old man who was reporting the information until he took a few steps back. General, it is Sangyu Mainland. Jia Axayan has personally said so. Tianya's body trembled as he gritted his teeth and said, let's go to the underground prison immediately. Bring Jia Axayan to meet me. Chapter 1460. It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. I in the underground prison. It was dark, gloomy, and damp. Jia Xin's body was curled up into a ball as he trembled. His gaze was full of fear and nervousness, and his face was as white as paper. Just at this moment, the underground prison door was opened, and a flash of light shone in from outside the door, shining on Jia Xin's body. Jia Axayan raised his head to look over. When he caught sight of the old man standing by the door of the underground prison, his whole body shuddered as a light of panic and fear flashed in his eyes. Even his body had wriggled backward a few times. However, behind him was an ice-cold wall, making him unable to retreat. What do you all wish to do? Even his voice was trembling. Obviously, what he had been experiencing in these few days was going to stay with him for the rest of his life. Tianya was like a ghost as his figure floated before Jia Axayan. With a single hand, he picked Jia Axayan up by the collar. His old face was expressionless, even to the point that there was no single ripple of emotion, making people unable to guess what he was thinking. During this period of your disappearance, you went to a place called Sangyu Mainland? Jia Axayan swallowed a mouthful of saliva in fear as he trembled and shook. Yes. What did you do there? Tian Ya's old face was cold. Tell me everything. Otherwise, I will make today unforgettable for you. Jia Axayan was stunned. Perhaps he did not understand why Tianya had to be so interested in his actions during his days in Sangyu Mainland. However, facing this old thing, Jia Axayan did not dare to hide anything, as he said tremblingly. I just went to a place called Tianshan Manor. Tianshan Manor. Tianya squinted, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. This Tianshan Manor looks like it survived. I wonder if that old thing in Tianshan Manor is still alive. Then, I stayed there for many years. If it were not for Mu Huan from the Mu family, I would not have left. The moment he mentioned the name Mu Huan, Jia Axayan gritted his teeth. If it were not for this death-deserving despicable person, how could he possibly appear? And furthermore, he would not have been dragged into this place by this black dragon. Me for extra chapters. Mu Huan. Tianya frowned. He did not have much of an impression toward this name. Then, how did you go to that place? All these years, he had tried countless methods but was unable to return. This world seemed to be sealed, sealing everyone to this mainland, only allowing entry without exit. Jia Axayan looked at Tianya cautiously. It was. I gave up all my cultivation. Only then was I able to go to Sangyu Mainland. Give up all cultivation. Tianya was immediately discouraged. If he gave up all his strength and returned, would that group of people not skin him alive? No. No. He needed to find a different method. He needed to return to Sangyu Mainland without being harmed. Last question. How did you return? Tianya continued to ask. Jia Xin's eyes were full of hatred. It is all Mu Huan's fault. I treated this person like a pearl in my palm. She was bullied, and naturally, I could not ignore it. To be honest, that Mu Huan's enemy was too weak, except for that old man in the Mu family. Oh, and another husband and wife pair. I believe they are called Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yen. These two people were slightly stronger. However, their strength is confined to just that world. Before me, they aren't even worth a glance. Saying this, Jia Axayan was a little proud and had actually forgotten his current situation. He also did not notice how Tianya's face had darkened. If it were not for that black dragon ripping open a void, would not possibly have been dragged in by it. That husband and wife would long have died, and I would not have ended in such a situation. Chapter 1461. It was Tianya who did not let wrongdoings go unpunished. That group of people were too weak, they could never be his opponents. If it were not for the black dragon, the bodies of Feng Tianyu, Nailan Yen, and the rest would have long grown cold. Tianya remained expressionless as he looked at Jia Axayan coldly. Just now you mentioned that couple, what were their names? Jia Axayan was stunned as he looked at Tianya with a confused gaze. He was silent for a while but finally replied, Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yen, they and the Mu family's young lady, someone called Sui, are in-laws. Repeat it, what are their names? Tianya's tone subconsciously was serious and severe as he asked, enunciating each word, one by one. Jia Axayan was stupefied. Was something wrong with Tianya's ears? He had already said it twice. Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yen, rumble. Tianya launched a vicious fist directly at Jia Xin's chest. Jia Axayan was caught unprepared as he crashed into the wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his chest hurting badly. He snapped up his head to look at Tianya. Say their name again. Jia Axian dumbly said. Feng Tianyu and, thud. The sole of Tianya's foot met Jia Xin's face. This kick was very strong, and Jia Xin's nose started to bleed non-stop. Even his face turned reddish-purple. Say it again, what are their names? Tianya expressionlessly approached Jia Axian, step by step. This time, Jia Axian wizened up as he kept his mouth shut and stopped speaking. Even if he did not know why Tianya was so angered, he understood that this old man would definitely beat him to death if he continued to speak. Even though he had abused Tianya's cat before, Tianya did not appear to be this violently angry. It was almost as if he wished to send him straight to hell. Tianya grabbed Jia Axian by the collar and dragged him closer. His expression was extremely cold. Jia Axian, tell me, that Mu Huan from the Mu family. Why did they want to attack the two people? Immediately tell me. Otherwise, I'll beat you to death now. Jia Axian shuddered. He could feel Tianya's rage, and his face turned pale. Me for extra chapters. I am not clear either. It seems like it was because of Nan Sui. Feng Tianyu's daughter is Nan Sui's daughter-in-law. Mu Huan's mother was the concubine of the Mu family. General Tianya, I've done wrong, I've really done wrong. I beg you to forgive me. I will not bully your cat anymore. I won't dare to escape again either. Perhaps he was afraid that Tianya would continue to beat him up violently. He knelt and wailed as he hugged Tianya's thigh. His tears were mixed with the blood that flowed from his nose. Tianya kicked hard against the back of Jia Xin's head as he pushed him to the ground with his foot. Where is that despicable person called Mu Huan? Jia Axian sobbed as snot flowed from his nose. Tsangyu mainland. Housekeeper, cripple his cultivation and exile him to Tsangyu mainland. Get him to inform that Mu Huan, and also that little concubine. These two despicable people better stay alive and wait for me to take their bastardly lives. The old housekeeper was also a little stunned. He also did not understand why Tianya was so angered. General. Do you know, that couple? Tianya looked down upon Jia Axian, who was being stepped on under his foot. I come from Tsangyu mainland. A very unfortunate coincidence is that the person called Feng Tianyu is my son. Rumble. This sentence was like lightning striking on a clear day, ruthlessly smashing into Jia Xin's head, so much so that he felt as if his whole head was about to split open. Feng Tianyu was Tianya's son. Not possible. How is there such a coincidence? How is Feng Tianyu Tianya's son?